Oh, we're here again. Yeah, it just doesn't stop, the Overwatch League. It really doesn't stop. Anyway, we've got mainly two things to talk about in this one, and this is San Francisco Shock and the Dallas Fuel. Dallas Fuel are continuing to do their moves, shall we say, and they're very interesting what the Dallas Fuel are doing, and it's looking good from a Fuel fan's perspective. It's probably looking like the best off-season Fuel have ever had. So it's a definite different direction for Fuel to go in, but it's actually super interesting, and yeah, I can't wait to see how this Dallas Fuel team performs. Anyway, that feels like a closing statement, and it's not. It's an opening statement, which is a bit weird. Anyway, let's start off with the Shock then. There's been some management/coaching changes for the Shock. So, remember Caceres, the Dutch coach, came in from Young and Beautiful, I think it was, as an analyst at the end of the season, during their playoff run and eventual, obviously, victory. He's sticking with the Shock, but he's actually getting a promotion. He's becoming an assistant coach at the Shock, which is great for Caceres. He's a great coach, and I was surprised when he moved to an analyst role at the Shock. Clearly, they had coaching movements. Possibly they knew about coaching movements that were coming up, and so they brought in Caceres as an analyst for that grand finals move, and then with the full intention to promote him during this off-season. I think that's a great move. He's gone from Young and Beautiful to assistant coach at the best team in the world right now. Can't get much of a bigger promotion than that. So yeah, I think he'll be great. I think he'll be great for the Shock. And then we have a new incomer at the Shock in the assistant coach role. And I'm not surprised about this. I've had talks on Discord and the server about this. And this is Agape. So both Agape and Pavane both Agape and Pavane have left London Spitfire quite obviously. And they're two top tier coaches. Like, Agape was the last remaining London Spitfire, well, not just player, well, he's not a player, but last, like, member of the Spitfire to remain from that Overwatch League winning season. So he's got really great credentials. And Pavane was head coach of the NYXL. So that's not too surprising. We'll move on to Pavane in a minute though. Agape is becoming an assistant coach at the San Francisco Shock. Now, Agape was head coach at London during this season. It didn't work out too well, but Agape was assistant coach, I believe, at London for the 2 years prior to that, before he was promoted. I think that's a great move by the Shock. I mean, when you look at the Shock's coaching staff now, you've got Krusty followed up by Agape and Caceres. I think that's great. I think that's really, really good. And Krusty has a knack of creating coaches that go on to do better things in the league. And we're seeing that with like Junkbuck and stuff now, the Houston Outlaws. So I think this is super, super interesting, and I think Agape deserves a shot at a really good team. Agape is a top tier coach in my opinion. He always has been. What happened with London last season is a bit weird. And he was head coach, Pavane was assistant coach, and yeah, I mean, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We don't know how that worked. I thought some of the decisions to play GMAC at times were a bit weird, but again, he's going to be assistant coach here. He's not going to be head coach. It's all going to be headed up by Krusty, we presume anyway. Who knows with this off season? But I expect Krusty to stay at the Shock, and I think that's a great two replacements for the assistant coaches that the Shock have lost. So, yeah, I think there's great moves by the Shock. Moving on, Pavane is not going to stay in Overwatch. He is retiring, and I think that's a loss. That's a loss. Pavane is still a great coach. I think he's had enough, clearly. He's had 3 years in the league, 2 with NYXL, and then another one with London Spitfire. And it's the end of Pavane's time in the Overwatch League, and it's a great shame. He's not going to be going to contenders. I think he's just going to retire, and I wish him all the best going into whatever he does next. Also, something else I want to point out that's not actually what I'm looking at right now, but Houston Outlaws have re-signed Dante, which I think is a very interesting move, and I think Junkbuck is going to want to not build around Dante, but I think he's going to be a very crucial and pivotal player for that Houston Outlaws team. So that's one to keep an eye on. But talking of Texas, we're going to move over to the blue side of Texas now, and the flaming blue of Dallas Fuel. So Actually, involves Houston as well. Dallas Fuel have named 2 players that they're going to be recruiting. Now we know about Hambin. We know about Rush coming in as head coach alongside Young. We know about Sparkle, and we know that they were retaining Doha. But now they have added another 2 players onto this list. It's 2 actual flex supports, which is rather interesting. It's not a main support and a flex support. It's 2 flex supports. So we're still expecting another support coming into the Fuel, but first of all, there's Fielder. So Fielder is the first left wing from the Dallas Fuel because, and the reason I say this, and this goes for the next signing as well, Fielder is the only player that Dallas Fuel has signed right now that has not had a history at Element Mystic. And obviously Dallas Fuel, this whole team has very heavy ties to Element Mystic. The 2 coaches now, Rush and Young, were the 2 coaches of Element Mystic when they won the Gauntlet in 2019. The players they're recruiting, Sparkle, Hambin, Doha, and we'll talk about one in a minute, but they're all part of that roster as well. So we're expecting them to go down a heavy route of Element Mystic. And this is the first player, Fielder, obviously, who is not part of that Element Mystic. He came from GC Blue Sound Wave, came into Paris Eternal, midway through the season and made waves on his 200 ping and did fantastically on Ana. And he left the Paris Eternal to everyone's shock. He became unassigned and everyone was wondering why the hell Paris let him go. Well, this is why, because Rush wanted to take him to Dallas Fuel with him. Now, I think this is a great pickup. From Dallas. I think Fielder definitely deserves a shot. And will he start? I think Fielder will start. Over the other flex support that they've signed, but I think it's a close one simply because of the synergy that the next flex support is going to have with this Dallas Fuel roster. So let's talk about that flex support. He's coming in from the Houston Outlaws, so this is going to really hurt for the green side of Texas. It's Repel. Repel again has a history at Element Mystic, so it's not too surprising that Dallas Fuel have wanted to get their hands on Repel here. We don't see many go from Houston to Dallas or vice versa, so that's gonna sting if you're a Houston Outlaws fan. But we have this debate of who starts, Fielder or Repel. It depends what Young and Rush want to do. If they want to field entirely Element Mystic, then it will be Repel, and Fielder will be understudy to Repel. Repel is the older of the 2 by 4 years actually. Repel's 22 and Fielder's 18. Fielder's still kind of getting into the scene. It was his breakthrough rookie year last year, and he did very well. Maybe Repel will be a guiding light for Fielder. It would be interesting to see how they work this. I would like to see Fielder start, though. I think Fielder has been better overall in Overwatch League history, even though Fielder doesn't have too much Overwatch League history. Repel, he's not been stand-up, but he's still a very good pickup for the Dallas Fuel. So this kind of fills out 2 support slots. We've got a lot of DPS at the Fuel. We have the obvious off tank that's going to start. It's going to be Hambin. We're waiting on a main tank, possibly another DPS and a main support, because there's a little bit of lack of long range hit scan at Dallas right now. There's no main support. There's no. Okay, so my bets on a main support would be Unique from Team Diamond because he was with that Element Mystic roster. That's my bet on that one, but we will see what happens. And then obviously the main tank. The main tank's a little bit weird because from that Element Mystic roster that we are going from at the moment, the main tank was Alpha. And Alpha hasn't been on our team since June. So yeah, that could be a little bit of a sticking point. There's also Popo, who was part of Element Mystic as well. So there's opportunities here for Dallas Fuel, and we will wait and see. What was that? Anyway, so I think this has been a really positive off-season so far for Dallas Fuel. This is their most positive moves they've made so far. And I made a mistake last season of hyping up the Dallas Fuel when they actually weren't good enough. I thought they were going to be better than they were. When they picked up Decay and Doha, it looked like they were going to be this really, really good, perhaps DPS carried, but still a good team. And they never provided us with the goods. If this doesn't work for Dallas Fuel the way they're going, I don't know what will. I'll be blatantly obvious with you. This is, from what they're building, is not too far off of a Korean super roster. And it was a Korean super roster back in 2019. Has it still got it? Who knows, but it will be under the same coaching that it was back then. God, there's some weird stuff going on at the moment. So, yeah, I think what happens at the Dallas Fuel in the next week or two is going to be interesting. Again, this might be outdated by the time it comes out, honestly, because that's how fast things are moving. I was expecting another signing from the Dallas Fuel before I made this video. It didn't come out. I had to make this video, so there we are. But, yeah. Dallas Fuel making moves. It's a good time to be a Dallas Fuel fan. It's a really sad time to be a Paris Eternal fan. I really feel for you guys. And another thing to touch on just before I leave is the fact that these moves may take longer. We're seeing Dallas make moves very early. That's because they're going all Korean, and Korean Contenders season is over. Overwatch League season is over. They can get all the talent they want in. If your roster is mixed, or it's EU or it's NA, I'm talking about the likes of Houston Outlaws, I'm talking about the likes of London Spitfire, you are probably going to have to wait for roster announcements. Simply because Contenders EU and Contenders NA does not finish until the end of November. I believe the grand finals for both EU and NA are on November the 29th, so I doubt whether any roster moves will be made before then. Especially for London, if they're promoting British Hurricane, they will not want to disrupt that, because British Hurricane are on a wild run, and they will not want to disturb that. They will want to tie up that Contenders EU title, and then promote them after that. So, yeah, be aware of that. Wait, no. Stop. Wait.